There's a kind of sadness that has no name. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for attention. It just sits inside you, quiet, heavy, like something was taken before you even knew you had it. If any part of this feels familiar, stay. Because what we're about to talk about isn't something people usually say out loud. Picture this. You're 7 years old. You're standing in the kitchen. The light is dim. Your mother is crying at the table. And without anyone telling you to, you walk over. You put your small hand on her shoulder. You don't cry. You don't ask questions. You just become smaller, quieter. You learn in that moment that your feelings come second. Or maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was the divorce, the illness, the silence in the house that was so loud it made you responsible for everyone's emotions. Maybe you became the therapist, the mediator, the one who smiled so no one else had to worry. You grew up too fast, and no one ever noticed. Here's what happens when a child is forced to grow up before they're ready. They don't just lose their childhood. They lose the ability to be a child later. Psychologists call this parentification. It's when a kid takes on emotional or practical responsibilities that should belong to an adult. And it doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just noticing too much, feeling too much, caring too much. You learn to read the room before you learn to read your own heart. You became hyper-aware, hyper-responsible. You started managing other people's emotions like it was your job. Because in a way, it was. And here's the part that breaks my heart. You probably don't even recognize it as trauma. Because you survived. Because you were mature for your age. Because people praised you for being so responsible. So capable. So easy. But inside, you were just a kid trying to hold a world together that was never yours to carry. There's a memory you might have. Maybe you don't think about it much. But it's there. You're sitting on the edge of your bed. You're 10. Maybe 11. You hear your parents arguing downstairs. And instead of being scared, you start planning. What will I say to my little brother when he asks why they're fighting? How do I make breakfast tomorrow if mom doesn't get up? What do I do if dad leaves? You didn't cry that night. You didn't scream. You just figured it out, like you always did. And the next morning you woke up. You made everyone smile. You pretended nothing happened. Because that's what you did. That's who you became. The kid who fixed things. Even when you were the one breaking. Let's talk about what this does to you. Not just back then. But now. When you grow up too fast, you don't just skip childhood. You skip the lessons childhood is supposed to teach you. Lessons like, it's okay to need help. It's okay to not know. It's okay to be messy, uncertain, scared. Instead, you learned, I have to be strong. I can't burden anyone. If I fall apart, everything falls apart. And so you became an adult in a child's body. You learned to suppress your needs, to minimize your pain, to perform competence even when you were drowning. And now you're an adult. But you still feel like that kid. The one holding everything together. The one who can't rest. Who can't play. Who can't just be. How it shows up in relationships. You overfunction. You become the caretaker. The therapist. The one who fixes, manages, anticipates. You're drawn to people who need you. Because being needed feels like love. But then you resent them. Not because they did anything wrong, but because you can't stop doing everything. You can't ask for help. You can't be vulnerable, because vulnerability feels like failure. So you stay strong, you stay capable, and you stay alone, even when someone's right next to you. How it shows up in your inner world. You feel older than you are, tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You watch other people play, laugh, be carefree, and you feel like you're watching from behind glass. You don't know how to rest without guilt. You don't know how to receive without giving back immediately. You don't know how to be cared for because you were never taught that you deserve care. And sometimes, late at night, you feel this ache. this grief, for the version of you that never got to exist. The one who got to be silly, irresponsible, soft. The one who got to be a kid. Here's the truth no one tells you. Growing up too fast wasn't your strength. It was your survival mechanism. You didn't choose to be mature. You didn't choose to be responsible. You adapted, because you had to, and the world praised you for it. You're so mature for your age. You're so responsible. You're so strong. But no one asked, are you okay? Do you need help? Who's taking care of you? And so you learned to hide, not just your pain, but your child self, the part of you that wanted to play, to cry, to be held. You buried that part so deep, you forgot it was ever there. But here's what I need you to hear. That part of you, the one that never got to be a kid, is still inside you. And it's not too late. If this is resonating with you, if something in your chest just tightened, take a second to like this video. Not for me, but so more people who need this can find it. And if you want, tell me in the comments what part hit you the most. You don't have to say much. Even just this one is enough. You're not alone here. Let's talk about something most people don't realize. When you grow up too fast, you don't just carry the weight from back then. You keep adding to it every single day. Because here's what happens. That hyper-responsibility, it doesn't turn off. You're 30, 40, 50 years old, and you're still the one who remembers everyone's birthday, organizes every gathering, checks in on everyone, makes sure everyone else is okay. But who checks in on you? And when someone does, when someone asks, how are you, really? You freeze, because you don't actually know. You've spent so long monitoring everyone else's emotional temperature. You forgot to check your own. Here's what else happens. You become allergic to your own needs. Not because you don't have them, but because admitting them feels dangerous. You think, if I need something, I'm weak. If I ask for help, I'm a burden. If I show that I'm struggling, everything will fall apart. So you perform. You perform strength. You perform having it all together. You perform not needing anyone. And the performance is so good that even you start to believe it. Until one day, you're in the middle of something ordinary, making coffee, driving to work, sitting in a meeting, and suddenly, it hits you. This exhaustion, this bone-deep tiredness. Not from the day, not from the week, from decades of holding, of carrying, of never putting it down. And you realize you don't actually know how to put it down. Because if you do, who will you be? There's another layer to this. When you grow up taking care of everyone else, you develop a very specific fear. The fear of being ordinary, of being small, of not being needed. Because somewhere deep inside, you learned that your value comes from what you do, not who you are. So you keep doing, you keep achieving, you keep proving. But no achievement ever feels like enough. No success ever makes you feel safe. Because the metric you're measuring yourself against isn't achievement, it's worthiness. And you don't actually believe you're worthy, not unless you're being useful. And here's the cruelest part. The people around you, they get used to it. They get used to you being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never needs anything. So when you finally do break, when you finally do need something, they don't know what to do with you. They're uncomfortable, confused, because you've trained them to see you as the caretaker, not the one who needs care. And that reinforces the belief that you were right all along, that you can't rely on anyone, that you're alone in this. But what if I told you that none of that is true? What if the story you've been telling yourself, the one where you have to do everything alone, is just that, a story, one you learned when you were too young to know better, one you've been repeating ever since, not because it's true, but because it's familiar. It starts with this: you were never supposed to carry that. Say it out loud if you need to. I was never supposed to carry that. You were a child. And children aren't supposed to be parents. They're not supposed to be therapists. They're not supposed to hold the weight of a family on their shoulders. It wasn't your job. And it was never your fault. Healing looks like this: learning to let yourself be cared for. Even when it feels uncomfortable. Even when it feels weak. It looks like saying, I need help. I don't know. I'm tired. And not apologizing for it. It looks like giving yourself permission to be playful, to be silly, to do things just because they feel good, to rest without earning it, to receive without giving back, to exist without being useful. It looks like reparenting yourself, talking to that younger version of you, the one who had to grow up too fast, and telling them, you're safe now. You don't have to manage everything anymore. You're allowed to just be. But let me be real with you. Healing isn't linear. It's not a straight line from pain to peace. Some days you'll feel free, like you've finally figured it out. And other days, you'll slip right back into old patterns. You'll overfunction. You'll people please. You'll carry weight that isn't yours. And you'll feel like you've failed, like you haven't learned anything. But here's what I need you to understand. Those moments, they're not failure. They're information. They're your nervous system defaulting to what kept you safe. And that's okay. Healing is about noticing, about catching yourself, about choosing differently, not perfectly, not every time, just more often than before. Here's a practice that might help. When you notice yourself slipping into old patterns, when you catch yourself overfunctioning or people-pleasing, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, how old do I feel right now? Because chances are, you're not feeling 30, 40, 50. You're feeling 7, 10, 12. You're feeling the age you were when you first learned that your worth depended on taking care of everyone else. And when you recognize that, you can speak to that younger part of you. You can say, I see you. I know you're scared. But you don't have to fix this. I've got us now. And slowly, that part of you starts to trust that they don't have to hold everything anymore. That you're the adult now. That you've got this. Healing also looks like this: letting yourself grieve. Not just for what happened, but for what didn't. The birthday parties you missed because you were taking care of someone. The friendships you couldn't maintain because you were too responsible. The spontaneous joy you never got to feel. The version of you that got to be careless, reckless, free. That grief is real, and it deserves space. You don't have to be grateful for what you learned. You don't have to see it as a blessing. You're allowed to be angry, sad, bitter about what was taken. And then, when you're ready, you can start building something new. Picture this. You're sitting somewhere quiet. Maybe it's morning. Maybe it's late at night. The world is still. And for the first time in a long time, you're not thinking about what needs to be done. You're not managing. You're not fixing. You're just here. And in that stillness, you feel it. That younger version of you, the one you buried, they're still there, waiting, not with anger, not with blame, just waiting. And maybe for the first time, you reach out to them. You say, I'm sorry I made you grow up so fast. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. But I see you now. And they don't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to have all the answers. They just need you to see them, to let them play, to let them rest, to let them be. Growing up too fast wasn't your fault. But healing from it, that's your choice. And it starts the moment you decide that you're worth caring for. Not because of what you do, but because of who you are. A person who deserved better. A person who still does. Here's what I want to leave you with. You've spent your whole life being strong for other people. You've earned the right to be soft. You've spent your whole life carrying weight. You've earned the right to put it down. You've spent your whole life proving your worth. You've earned the right to simply exist. Not as someone useful. not as someone needed, just as you. And that's enough. It always was. If this found you at the right time, subscribe. Because there are more videos like this. More moments that feel like this. You're not alone here. And you never have to carry everything by yourself again. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. You've earned it.